It's Thursday, the 19th of September, 2024. Welcome to the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, 5 big stories to get through in 5 minutes, so we better get going. Story number 1, relations between the government and the union movement have hit a new low, with an estimated 60,000 construction workers yesterday protesting the forced administration of the CFMEU.
Unionists backing the CFMEU have targeted anyone assisting the administrator as the biggest betrayers of the movement. They called for the scalps of employers who seek to back out of pay deals during the administration. Yesterday was the second major rally in 2 months, and the protesters threatened a third walkout and a 3-day strike. There was plenty of not-so-veiled threats and aggressive language. Electrical Trade Union's Victorian Secretary Troy Gray took aim particularly at Laing O'Rourke, John Holland and Acciona. He said if builders used the CFMEU administration to wind back conditions, well, they would pay the price. In fact, he went on to warn builders, and I quote, "If you want to F with us, we will F with you." He also played down reports that the CFMEU had appointed bikies as workplace delegates, saying there were 12 or 14 bikers out of 300,000 construction workers, notwithstanding that earlier in the week, the former Independent Commission Against Corruption counsel, Jeffrey Watson SC, found that the organised crime figures had infiltrated the union. Anyway, International Transport Workers Federation organiser and former Maritime Union leader Paul McAleer said, and I quote, "There is not a single guilty union official of the CFMEU." In fact, he blamed the media and the government for what's going on. Sacked CFMEU New South Wales leader Darren Greenfield, who's facing charges himself, urged the Sydney protesters to, and I quote, "take the community and families with us in the next election to make sure that these effers, i.e. Labor, disappear." Anyway, plenty of fruity language, Michael.
Fruity language indeed. Do these rallies help the union movement, Sean, and the CFMEU?
I don't think the language does. 60,000 people showed up, so clearly there is some support. I don't think these threats win over people outside the union. It just shows, though, how difficult relations are between the union movement and the ALP at the moment.
Okay, on to story number 2. Miner Rio Tinto will plant about 750,000 trees on 3,000 hectares of grazing land near Townsville in Queensland.
It's part of Rio's push into carbon neutral fuels. The idea is to harvest the seeds from the 750,000 Pongamia trees and refine their oils into a form of renewable diesel. That diesel, in theory, will power Rio's trucks and generators. Like traditional fuels made with oil extracted from underground rocks, biofuels release carbon into the atmosphere when burned. But they're considered neutral for the climate because the carbon in biofuels was sucked out of the atmosphere by the trees, so the burning of a biofuel doesn't release any additional carbon into the atmosphere. Rio will own the land and the trees, so it will get third parties to do the rest.
Story number 3, Sean. Moody's Ratings says mortgage delinquency rates in Australia will rise further this year as the cost of living hurts households.
The ratings agency said high interest rates and sticky inflation were causing financial stress and more people are falling behind in their mortgage payments. The share of prime quality home loans that are at least 30 days in arrears hasn't jumped very much, but delinquency rates for lower quality mortgages, including loans to borrowers with poor credit histories or those that lenders assessed using alternative documentation, rose from 4% to 4.23%. This group of people includes self-employed borrowers, low-income households and those with high loan-to-valuation ratios. According to a report in The Australian, Moody's said that after rising steadily for the last 2 years from a historically low base, delinquency rates are now around long-term averages.
Story number 4, Meta is putting Instagram users under the age of 18 into new teen accounts to allow parents greater control over their activities, including the ability to actually block children from viewing the app at night.
The change will apply to new teen users, but will be extended to existing accounts held by teenagers over the next few months. Changes under the teen account setting include giving parents the ability to set daily time limits for using the app, blocking teens from using Instagram at certain times, seeing the accounts their child is exchanging messages with, and being shown the content categories they are viewing, according to a report in The Guardian. Under the new teen account feature, users under the age of 16 will need parental permission to change those settings. The new account setting will apply to users in the US, UK, Canada, and here in Australia.
Last one, story number 5. US rapper and business mogul Sean Combs has been charged with using his fame and fortune to run a sex trafficking enterprise, assault several women, and prevent alleged victims of sexual coercion from fleeing.
That, according to a federal indictment unsealed in New York, as reported by the Financial Times, the 54-year-old, also known as Diddy, was arrested on Monday night and pleaded not guilty during an initial court appearance. He was denied bail in order to remain in custody. The formal allegations against him come after the FBI raided Combs' homes in California and Florida as part of a long-running investigation, and the leaking of a video that appeared to show him kicking and beating a woman in a hotel corridor. In their filing to a Manhattan federal court, US prosecutors said Combs had, over the course of at least a decade, abused, threatened and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation and conceal his conduct. The most serious charge carries a maximum sentence of life in prison. Combs will appeal against the decision, denying him bail, and he denies all the allegations.
All right, there we go. The top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It is Thursday, the 19th of September, 2024. Remember to hit follow on the podcast, and if 5 minutes isn't enough, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed wherever you listen to podcasts. And we have a new podcast out today as well. It is called The Property Pendulum, brought to you by Domain and Fear and Greed, the podcast that tells you which way the property market is swinging and how to make the most of it. Today's episode: 4 things every home buyer needs to know before making an offer. You can find The Property Pendulum wherever you listen to podcasts, and I'll put a link in today's show notes as well. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.